So today's shloka is going to be 4.21, but I thought it would be nice for us to do a little bit of a revision and also see how much we have actually understood this particular chapter. So this particular chapter is titled Transcendental Knowledge. What does the word transcendental mean? Can anybody explain what does the word transcendental mean?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Pure and spiritual.
Sorry, what was that again?
Pure knowledge, spiritual.
Pure knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Okay.
And Mataji, I said that it's beyond time, space, and everything. Like it's the true knowledge.
Beyond the material plane, essentially.
Divya Gyan.
Divya Gyan. Okay. So what do you think this transcendental knowledge is all about? Based on your recollection of what we've read in chapter 4.
It is mainly to understand about soul and super soul.
Soul and super soul. Okay. Anyone else?
And the relation between the two, Mataji.
And the relation between the two. Anyone else?
To understand the Supreme.
To understand the Supreme Lord. Anything else? So, yes, Achyut Prabhu.
Our constitutional position. And
Our
the
constitutional position in relation to the Supreme Lord. Yes. So we've said this is what is the relationship between the soul and the super soul. So can you talk about the differences between the position of the soul and the position of the super soul? What are some of the differences?
He is the enjoyer and we are the enjoyed.
Okay, so the Lord is the enjoyer and we are meant to be enjoyed by the Lord. Okay.
The Lord is the master and we are his servant.
Excellent. The Lord is the master and we are the servant. Anything else?
we are the knower of this body only, and super is the knower of all the bodies.
Yes, so we are the knowers of our own body, but the Lord is the knower of all bodies. Very good.
And Mataji, we are just the part and parcel of the super soul, but not the whole, and he's the whole.
Yes,
So-
the Lord is the complete whole, and we are part and parcel of that complete whole. What are the other differences?
Yaranu is Vibhu.
We are Anu, he is Vibhu. Is that what you said?
Yes, Mata.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
What else? Based on this chapter, what do you recollect? Are we eternal?
Yes.
Is
Eternal
the Lord
servitor.
eternal?
Eternal. Both we are eternal servitor.
Are we both eternal?
Yes.
Okay. What about our body? Is our body Satchidananda?
No.
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. What about the Lord's body?
It is.
So our body in its original spiritual form is also Satchidananda. Our body, when we take on a material body as per our activities and desires, then we experience Nirananda essentially. What about when the Lord appears? Does he appear because of karma?
No, he's free from all that.
No.
So the Lord is free from karma. So then how does he appear then?
In his original transcendental form.
Yes, but what compels him to come?
To protect the pious and annihilate the miscreants.
To protect the pious and annihilate the miscreants. The Lord can come whenever he wants. He doesn't only have to wait for these particular situations. Correct?
Yes.
Can he appear by his own will if he wants?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
What about how we appear? Do we appear by our own will?
As per our karmic action.
As per our, we are forced to take birth because of our past karma.
Condition.
By what was that, Mataji?
We are conditioned.
We are conditioned.
Conditioned souls.
Conditioned souls, yes. So when the Lord appears, does his body undergo changes?
No.
No.
Question, huh?
It appears that it is changing, but actually it is not. It's an illusion in our eyes.
Yes. To us externally, it appears that the Lord is a little baby, then he's growing up, he's doing some mischief, then he's become quote unquote an adult. So externally, it appears to us that the Lord's body is undergoing changes. But in reality, is his body undergoing changes?
No.
No.
Does our body undergo changes?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
But what causes our body to undergo changes?
Time.
Time.
Modes, three modes.
Three
Prakriti.
modes, yes. And therefore, we experience 6 things. What are those 6 things?
Birth, youth, old age,
Jara Mityu Vyadhi.
Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi.
Vyadhi.
Not that.
Janma, Mrityu, that's 4.
Birth and
But the body undergoes 4 changes until death. From birth to death, what are those? Sorry, the 6 changes. What are those 6 changes?
Mataji, it get birth and then we get into child and then we get into Kishore Avastha, then youth, then old age and then death. Is it correct?
That's for human being. For all living entities, we experience birth. Then
Growth,
our body undergoes some changes.
Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi.
Then our body produces byproducts.
Dwindles
It dwindles
and vanishes.
and vanishes. And then one more element is it maintains itself for some time. That's the other, that makes it 6. So we take birth, our body undergoes changes. We learn how to maintain our body for some time. We produce byproducts in the form of progeny. It dwindles and then it dies. These are the 6 changes that our body undergoes. The Lord's body does not undergo this, even though externally to us it may seem that way. Because the Lord is beyond the 3 modes of material nature. So when does the Lord appear? When there is a decline in religious practice and when there is a predominant rise in irreligion. That is when the Lord appears, millennium after millennium. So what is a millennium?
Yuga.
1 yuga? What is a millennium? Srila Prabhupada explains what is millennium. How frequently does the Lord appear? He says he appears every millennium. But what is that calculation?
1 day of the Brahma.
1 day of Lord Brahma. So 1 day of Lord Brahma equals how many yugas?
1000 Mahayugas.
1000 Chaturyugas. So this 1000 cycles of Chaturyugas is called
Mahayuga.
Kalpa.
1 Kalpa.
It's called Kalpa. So half a day of Brahma is 1 Kalpa. The rest of the another 12 hours of his is another Kalpa. So the Lord appears once in the day of Brahma. And what do you think the Lord does when he appears once in the day of Brahma? Because let us say Brahma has gone to sleep. He's waking up the next day. What do you think the Lord comes to do? The Lord says he appears once in the day of Lord Brahma. What do you think the Lord is doing for Brahma? I think we discussed this in some class.
Giving him knowledge to create.
Yes. So the Lord has to give knowledge all over again to Lord Brahma, because when Brahma goes to sleep and wakes up, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. So again, the Lord has to come and reveal the scriptures again to him so that Brahma knows, oh, I'm supposed to do Visarga, secondary creation. So this is how the Lord appears once in the day of Lord Brahma. So the Lord comes into this material universe when there is a decline in religious practices and when there is a rise in religion. But why does he come? One question that was answered is when he comes. Why does he come?
Mataji, to be with his devotees also, as well as for the establishment, for re-establishing the dharma.
So the first reason is to deliver his devotees who are anxious to see the Lord.
Yes, Mataji.
His association. The second reason is to annihilate the miscreants, those who are creating disturbances in society. And the third reason is to re-establish dharma. So one may think Kali Yuga is so horrible even now. It's just 5,000 years old. Why hasn't the Lord come? What do you think is the answer to that question?
Mataji, Lord has already come in the form of his name.
Yes. And he's come in the form of his name as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Lord exists eternally in his names. What could be another reason? So yes, the Lord is there in the form of his names. But the Lord is still not visible to us. We want personal association. We cannot understand how we can personally associate with the Lord in the form of his names. Until you chant, you will not experience it. But still, isn't there a hankering in all of us to see the Lord with our eyes?
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji.
There is hankering, right?
Very much, Mataji.
We like chanting. We know that chanting helps us. We know it has made us a better person. It has helped us handle ourselves and our emotions better. But still, we have that innate desire to want to see the Lord. So how do we get to see the Lord then?
Through spiritual master.
Through spiritual master and
Arch Vigraha form.
Archa Vigraha form. He is there in his deity form.
And scriptures.
And through scriptures, because the Lord exists in scriptures along with existing in his names, because he's invested all of the energies in his
It's
names.
also called avatar only, no, Mataji.
And the avatars, yes. The various avatars of the Lord. Yes. So then Krishna says in Shloka 11, actually, let's just read quickly. Can somebody read the first 5 shlokas?
Mataji, may I?
Yes, please.
Text 1, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku.
So what is the Lord establishing in the first shloka?
That he said this
Parampara.
before
Parampara system. That means this knowledge can only be learnt and absorbed in the Parampara system. Next shloka.
Text 2. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost.
So one thing that the Lord is, actually multiple things that the Lord is establishing in the second shloka is that this knowledge about the Supreme Lord and the relationship with the Jivatmas is actually a science. It is received in disciplic succession, and it also means that the kings were well educated in this knowledge. But over a period of time, degradation happens, and therefore the Lord is saying the science as it is appears to be lost. Next shloka.
Verse 3, that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science.
So what is the Lord establishing in this shloka?
The qualification to understand.
Qualifications. So what are the qualifications to understand the supreme science?
One should be a devotee.
Devotee
Devotee
to the Lord and be a friend to the Lord.
and be a friend. Being a friend means also being non-envious. Yes.
Yes.
Shloka 4.
Verse 4, Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him?
So Arjuna is a little puzzled because he's looking at the external form of the Lord. You are as old as me. The sun god has existed forever. So how does this make sense? And the Lord responds.
Verse 5, the personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy.
So the Lord establishes the first distinction between the soul and the supersoul. The soul repeatedly takes birth. The Lord also repeatedly appears as by his own will. So that's the first commonality between the Supreme Lord and the soul. The second aspect is the difference. One difference is that when the soul takes on a particular body, it does not necessarily remember what has happened in its past life. And that's because the Lord says, from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Whereas the Lord is saying, I remember all of your births. Shloka 6.
Mataji, shall I or someone else?
Yes, can someone else read the 6 to 10?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form.
So the Lord is establishing here, he does not take birth like you and me. You and I take birth because of our past karma. But the Lord appears of his own free will. And he's saying his body never deteriorates. So it doesn't undergo the 6 changes that we talked about. So the other thing he's saying is that although he's the Supreme Lord, he chooses to appear every millennium in his original transcendental form. 7.
Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself.
So this answers the question when the Lord appears, which is when there is a decline in religious practice and a predominant rise in irreligion. And the Lord is saying he comes himself, not as an expansion, not as anything else, but he comes by in his original transcendental form. 8.
To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium.
So what does he do when he appears? He primarily appears to deliver the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. Again, the Lord is repeating, I myself appear millennium after millennium. He has to come himself because he has to re-establish dharmic principles. So 3 reasons that the Lord has given us to why he appears. Shloka 9.
One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna.
So the Lord is telling you what is the benefit of knowing that he is the Supreme Lord, that you are his eternal servant, that if you have understood him and his position, and you've understood about his appearance and his activities, and you have accepted him as the Supreme Lord, the Lord is saying then you do not have to appear back again. You come back to my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this is the benefit of understanding and applying this transcendental knowledge in the form of our sadhana. Shloka 10.
Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me.
So how do you get to the goal of pure love for Krishna? Krishna is saying, in order to reach this stage of pure love for me, a few things need to happen. Vitaraga bhaya krodha. So you have to be free from raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, and anger, krodha. Once you have set all of that aside, then once you become fully absorbed in the Supreme Lord and take his refuge, your consciousness gets purified because you understand the Lord's position. And having understood the Lord's position, you become fully absorbed in love for the Lord. And that is the ultimate objective. But the criteria is we have to let go of our inhibitions, let go of our attachments, of our fear, of our envy. Okay. So someone else can read shlokas 11 to 15, please.
I'll read, Mataji.
Yes.
As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Partha.
Yes. So here the Lord is saying, anybody who is following any path, ultimately, they're actually seeking him. They may not know it. And the Lord says, the level to which we surrender to him, that's the level to which he actually reciprocates. Next shloka.
Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world.
So why do we worship demigods?
To get some material benefits.
To get some material benefits. And some demigods are very prompt in responding to your prayer. Therefore, your desire to worship them increases, isn't it? So I was listening to some video today. I used to recite the Hanuman Chalisa, but then somewhere along the way, we start chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and sometimes we forget to recite other prayers that we would have learned as young children. And I just happened to be listening to a video and I didn't know about these facts, but apparently I do not know if this is based on Shastra. But it is said that anybody who recites the Hanuman Chalisa with faith, they can easily overcome their fear and anger and all of their various inhibitions. And if they do it with faith, Hanumanji responds very, very quickly. But if you ask for things that are beyond the realm of Hanumanji, then obviously there is no reciprocation. But the fundamental point here is that, we are worshipping, at least in India, there are more devotees of Lord Hanuman than probably there are devotees of Lord Ram. Because the devotee of the Lord is supposed to be far more compassionate than the Supreme Lord himself. But in this case, I was just listening to the benefits of reciting Hanuman Chalisa, which is also, it removes fear of dark forces, and especially if you are possessed by whatever, pretas and ghosts and whatnot. Apparently chanting the Hanuman Chalisa can actually help you. Okay. So that's one reason why we worship demigods, because we want material benefits. The second reason is that we want quick results. And therefore, demigods reciprocate with us based on our sincerity, again, there. And they reciprocate because whatever they are authorized to give you by the Supreme Lord, they will give it to you. Shloka 13.
According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable.
So here the Lord is talking about Varnashrama. And the Lord is saying the Varnashrama is a socio-economic way in which human beings are naturally divided based on their aptitude and their attitude, which means based on their qualities and based on their qualifications. So the four varnas and the four ashramas are created to cooperate with each other for the purpose of society functioning smoothly. But all four varnas come under the influence of the three modes of material nature. As a matter of fact, in chapter 14, the Lord tells Arjuna, all the way up to Lord Brahma, they are all influenced by the three gunas, Rajogun, Tamogun, and Sattvagun. And the Lord is also saying here, yes, I have created this Varnashram, I have created these three gunas, but just because I enter into this material universe, please don't think that I come under the influence. So the Lord is saying, I am the non-doer, I am unchangeable. Shloka 14.
There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work.
So the Lord is saying here, you need to understand my position as the Supreme Lord. When I come and work in the material universe, my work is not mundane work. My work does not affect me. In other words, karma is not something that impacts the Lord. He is beyond the karmic reactions. The second thing the Lord is saying, even if I work, I'm not doing it because I am aspiring for a certain fruit of action. And the Lord is saying, if you've understood this about me, then you yourself will not become entangled in the reactions of work. Shloka 15.
All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps.
So from shlokas 11 to 15, the Lord has talked about the goals of the different paths, ultimately actually leading to him. So now from shlokas 16 to 24, the Lord is going to talk about karma and also the different action and inaction, and also how the self-realized souls transcend this action and inaction and come to the platform of akarma. So can someone else read 16 to 20?
Mataji,
Yes, please. Anil Prabhu.
even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune.
So here, action and inaction. So there is a difference between karma, vikarma, and also akarma. So the Lord is going to explain this to Arjuna, but at the same time, the Lord is also indicating here clearly to Arjuna, actually, it is very hard to decipher how karma operates. But the Lord is saying, I'm going to tell you a little bit of information about how karma operates. And maybe if you've understood the basics of it, you can avoid karmic reactions. So with that in mind, the Lord is now going to explain karma, akarma, and vikarma. Sloka 17.
The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is.
So what action is karma. What forbidden action is vikarma, and what inaction is akarma. Sloka 18.
One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities.
So here the Lord is describing karma. So karma means, what is the result of karma? You get good reactions. But how do you get good reactions? When you're actually performing your work with a sense of duty and responsibility, and with a sense of you wanting to follow the Vedic scriptures. So in the sense, even if you have material desires, as long as you are fulfilling your material desires in alignment with the Vedic scriptures, it will yield good results. It will yield good reactions in the form of punya. So this varnashrama system is set up in such a way that every living entity or every human being, irregardless of which varna and ashrama he belongs to, has a means to satisfy his basic material desires. But if he does it in alignment with the Vedic scriptures, he should not incur any negative consequences. Externally, if you look at it, if you're accumulating a lot of punya because you're following the Vedic scriptures, even though you are also doing it to achieve some material ends, you will accumulate punya. But there is a slight problem with this, with this kind of a trap that has been set for us. Even if we follow the Vedic scriptures to fulfill our own desires, there is nothing wrong. The Lord is not saying don't fulfill your desires. The problem that stems from our desire to fulfill our material hankerings, it causes you to become very attached to those hankerings. Actually, I was reading chapter 14 today, which is called the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. And the Lord is saying, the minute you satisfy one hankering, it leads to another and it leads to another. So you have an endless number of desires. And it is like you are forcing yourself to chase all these desires down until you are able to satisfy those desires. So in that sense, the Lord is saying, when you have endless number of desires, you are predominantly under the influence of Rajogun. And Rajogun means endless activity, chase after chase after chase. You're trying to accomplish a lot of things. And that is that causes you to take birth again and again and again and again. Because as long as you have desires, you have to take birth again. So here the Lord is saying, one who sees inaction and action and action and action is intelligent among men. And he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Which means the Lord is actually talking about a karma here. A karma means if you perform a karma, the result is that there are no reactions. What do we mean by no reactions? No reactions means there is no positive and there is no negative. Everything gets neutralized. How does it get neutralized? When you are doing everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then you neither accumulate punya nor do you accumulate any papa. So this is what the Lord means. One who sees inaction and action, which means I am also performing all the activities, but I am not going to suffer the consequences of those actions simply because I have surrendered to the Supreme Lord and have become his devotee. So the minute you become a devotee of Lord Krishna, the Lord neutralizes the consequences of your actions. So even if I perform some abominable act unintentionally, the Lord excuses those acts. This does not mean we have a license to act any which way we want on the strength of chanting the holy names of the Lord, because that is considered an offense. That is one of the nabhabhas. Nabhabhas means when you chant, we commit certain offenses. Those offenses have even more severe consequences than papa or punya. So being a devotee is like being on that razor's edge. We have to be very careful. Just because we are chanting the names of the Lord, and just because we are engaged in practicing Krishna consciousness, it is not a license to do whatever we want. So we have to be cautious when it comes to our actions, behavior, and conduct, not just with other devotees, but also with all living entities. Shloka 19.
One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge.
So this fire of perfect knowledge is having understood that you are eternally a servant of the Supreme Lord, then you know you are not the ultimate controller, you are not the ultimate proprietor, you are not the ultimate enjoyer. The word Purusha means enjoyer, but we are Purusha with a small p. The Lord is not saying you don't have the right to enjoy yourself. The Lord is only saying, don't try to enjoy yourself without me. That's all the Lord is saying. You want to enjoy yourself, that's fine. Just make sure that I am in the picture somewhere. Not in a perfunctory way, but in a much more serious way. So that is why we always say devotees also enjoy themselves. Devotees are not sitting in one corner morosely chanting without enjoying themselves. Devotees also enjoy a full life. It is just that we have chosen to enjoy ourselves in a way that pleases Guru and Krishna. So we don't want to do anything that will disappoint Guru and disappoint Lord Krishna. But Lord Krishna has never said you don't have the right to enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself, but do it in the right way. You can also enjoy yourselves by following the Vedic scriptures, but that has consequences. But if you enjoy yourself in the spirit of pleasing Krishna, then there are no consequences. So hence the Lord is saying, one is understood to be in full knowledge whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. So we've mentioned before that most of us are practicing mixed bhakti. In the sense, we still have some desires. We still have some material desires. Not all of us are able to give up all of the material desires, like attachment to family, attachment to things, attachment to sense of honor, prestige, respect. These are all considered material desires. But as long as we are chanting the holy names of the Lord, and as long as we are devotees of the Lord overlooks the fact that you are still chasing some material desires. However, if you've come to the platform where you've understood nothing belongs to me, my body doesn't belong to me, my mind doesn't belong to me, let alone my family doesn't belong to me. In this life, they are my family. In next life, we are going to part ways. We don't know where we are going to go. So when you recognize that, then you no longer are chasing material desires, including the subtler desires of family, attachment, wealth, prestige, all of these subtle things that we chase also. Those are also considered material desires. When you have given up even that, Krishna is saying, the sages say that such a worker for whom the reactions have been burned by fire of perfect knowledge. They have understood everything and they are no longer perturbed by what happens to them. Shloka 20.
Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings.
So Krishna is saying, externally, when you see everybody around you, everybody is busy with their activities. But you really don't know who is actually a devotee of the Lord. So only Guru knows with what level of detachment that you're actually conducting yourself in your day-to-day life. So externally, when you observe others, everybody seems to be chasing something. Everybody seems to be busy with things. So Krishna is saying they may be busy, but internally, they are completely detached. They are no longer worried about pride, prestige, honor, dishonor, happiness, distress. It doesn't faze them. Such a person, he may be very busy, but Krishna is saying they perform no fruitive action, no karma. Karma cannot touch them, although they seem to be as busy as you and me. So now that brings us to Shloka 21. So please recite after me. Nirashiryata chittatma tyakta sarva parigrahah shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham nirashiryata chittatma tyakta sarva parigrahah shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Once more. Nirashiryata chittatma त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्. So word for word meaning and translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Nirashihi, without desire for the result. Yata, controlled. Chitta Atma, mind and intelligence. Tyakta, giving up. Sarva, all. Parigraha, sense of proprietorship over possessions. Shariram, in keeping body and soul together. Kevalam, only. Karma, work. Kurvan, doing. Na, never. Apnoti, does acquire. Kilbisham, sinful reactions. Translation: such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence, perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. So we will read the purport and then we will discuss the deeper meaning behind the shloka. Purport: a Krishna conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is part and parcel of the Supreme, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reactions of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna conscious person, fully engaged in self-realization, has very little time to falsely possess any material object. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not therefore become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. The Lord is talking about the transcendentalists in these shlokas from 21 to 24. How these transcendentals go beyond the realm of attachment, beyond the realm of fear, beyond the realm of anger. They are situated in the transcendental platform. Now, Srila Prabhupada has used two different analogies here. One analogy is of a part being of the whole machinery. The other analogy that Prabhupada has used is an animal and its master. So let's understand this analogy a little bit better. Srila Prabhupada is not using this analogy of a machine and an animal to degrade us as human beings. So we need to look beyond the immediate understanding of this meaning. So just like we said, the Lord is the complete whole, and we are part and parcel of that complete whole, which means the part and parcel cannot really function properly at its optimum level unless it chooses to become part of that machine and operate in cooperation with the other parts of the machine. So here, if a part of a machine decides it does not want to be part of that machine and wants to enjoy by itself, then it has no value. But when that part of the machine is attached to that machine and performing its role as that part of that complete whole, then it has its original identity of being Satchidananda. So all Srila Prabhupada is saying here is, so if we have understood that we are part of this complete whole, and the complete whole is the Supreme Lord, then the part has to learn how to maintain itself. But it does not maintain itself to be separated from the rest of the machinery. It maintains itself in so much as it allows it to serve the rest of the machinery. So here, Srila Prabhupada is saying, a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit. But to remain fit to do what? You are supposed to maintain your body so that you can serve the Supreme Lord. Not that you maintain your body to try and enjoy yourself independently of the Supreme Lord, because you will never enjoy yourself. So we will only feel complete when we are part of the complete whole. We will only feel transcendental bliss when we are part of that complete whole. This doesn't mean that the part is insignificant or the part is unimportant. It simply means the part has to understand its role in relation to the complete whole. So that is what the Lord is also explaining here. So you may ask, here the Lord is saying, so what does this transcendentalist do? He gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions. He knows that nothing belongs to him and acts only for the bare necessities of life. One could argue, if Arjuna is considered a devotee of the Lord, which he is, which means it makes him a transcendentalist. But if he follows the instruction of the Lord and fights and wins the kingdom, he is certainly going to be enjoying himself in all opulence in a palace. He is not acting only for the bare necessities of life. So how do we understand this then? So when the Lord is saying, act only for the bare necessities of life, what he means is that we all are in different varna and ashramas. So if our varna is a Kshatriya varna, and we are in the administrative class, then the administrative class collects taxes in order to take care of general society requirements and provide good governance. But that also allows them to lead some life of opulence and wealth because of their role in society. So for Arjuna, winning the battle, he is a transcendentalist, he is a devotee of the Lord. Winning the battle doesn't mean he has to give up his kingdom and live a life of a pauper. So each of us have to decide for ourselves, what is the definition of bare necessities of life for us? For some of us, bare necessities of life could be a 5-bedroom apartment. For some of us, it's a condo, a studio apartment is sufficient. So as per our varna and ashrama, we have to decide what is that bare necessities of life. Having said that, one thing has to be very clear. Krishna and the spiritual masters do not advise us to over-endeavor to collect material things. Because the minute we over-endeavor for something, it means we have less time to serve Krishna. But if we are over-endeavoring so that everything can be used in the service of Krishna, then you are situated on the right platform. So the choice is ours. How do we define what is bare necessities of life? Some of us can live without AC even in the hottest of temperatures. Some of us cannot tolerate it. But if having an AC helps me serve Krishna better, then so be it. If having an AC disturbs me from service to Krishna, so be it. So each of us has to decide what this bare necessity of life is. But at no point in time should we over-endeavor in such a way that it prevents you from serving Krishna. Right? The other analogy that Srila Prabhupada uses here is an animal and the owner. An animal has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest. Is Prabhupada saying that you and I are like a dog or like any other animal? That's just a mere possession of the Supreme Lord? No. The deeper meaning of this particular analogy that Srila Prabhupada has used is that just like a devoted animal would do anything for his master and not protest sometimes when the master chastises him. Similarly, a devotee of the Lord will do anything for Krishna, including giving up his own life in the service of Krishna. So this is just to drive home the point that we are servants of the Supreme Lord. And a transcendentalist, a pure devotee, is willing to undergo any struggle and any difficulty just to please the Supreme Lord. Not all devotees can do this. So again, here is a choice that we can make. How much of ourselves do we want to extend in the service of the Supreme Lord? That's a personal choice that you get to make. it doesn't mean that you're serving Krishna any less or you're pleasing Krishna any less. Of course, if one does more to please the Supreme Lord, you attract his attention. You attract his eternal mercy. So it is the degree and level of surrender that Srila Prabhupada is talking about here when he is using the two analogies. One analogy is that we are part of the complete whole and we cannot forget that. And therefore we are happiest when we are connected to that complete whole. The second higher level of service is to consider yourself a servant of the Lord and you're willing to do anything for the service of the Lord, including taking on all kinds of difficulties, including facing all kinds of trials and tribulations so that you can please your Supreme Master, your spiritual master, as well as the Supreme Lord. So this is how these two analogies need to be understood. It's not meant to dehumanize our position as a pure soul, but that pure soul needs to understand that one cannot be happy without Krishna in his life. So the Lord is simply saying here, when you understand and give up the sense of proprietorship, so you may be a crorepati, but if you understand that not a penny belongs to you, then you will do everything that you can to use your savings in the service of the Supreme Lord. Such a person is not affected by sinful reactions. So in whatever station of life that we are in, we need to understand how best we can actually serve the Lord. But the question is left to each of us, how much do we want to push ourselves? You know, I hope all of you who were not in Bangalore and not in the temple last Sunday actually heard the lecture of His Grace Vardhakrishna Prabhu. He gave a fantastic lecture. It is there on our YouTube channel. Please listen to it. It will give you so much clarity. His Grace Vardhakrishna Prabhu was saying, as Jivatmas, none of us can be neutral. We have to take a side because Dharma has two sides. We have to be on the right side of Dharma and not on the wrong side of Dharma. So if we want to be on the right side of Dharma, we would be working for Krishna. If we end up on the wrong side of Dharma, then we are working for Maya Devi. So Prabhu beautifully explained that as devotees, we cannot be neutral. We are clear that we are on the side of the Lord, that we are here to work for the Lord, right? I'm sure some of you who are here attended that session. It was a fantastic session where you are forced to take a side. It's better that you be on the side of Krishna than on the side of Maya Devi. The second thing that Prabhu was explaining in that class is how Maya Devi constantly tempts you to postpone the good that you want to do. Let's say you want to come for Mangalarti. So Maya Devi will say, why you are so tired? You know, you're exhausted. Why don't you start next week? So this temptation that Maya Devi gives you is to always postpone. She tricks you to postpone anything good that you want to do for Krishna. Not because she is opposed to you being close to Krishna. She is testing your resolve. Are you seriously a devotee of Krishna, or are you just, you know, enjoying yourself on the surface? So her duty is to strengthen your resolve and determination to serve Krishna. And hence she will send you temptation after temptation after temptation to tell you, don't go close to Krishna. You're not ready yet. Don't go close to Krishna. This is not the right time. Don't go close to Krishna. You have so many other priorities. So this is Maya Devi in action. And Prabhuji was saying, Maya Devi will always have a reason why you shouldn't go to the temple, why you shouldn't attend class, why you shouldn't chant 16 rounds. She will always plant different thoughts in you. And we have to be aware of how she works. And here is where association with other devotees, regular and constant association with other devotees, strengthens your resolve to serve Krishna. So once your resolve is strengthened, then everything seems to be easy and sublime. Everything seems to be so enjoyable. Yes. So this is actually very, very important. I will end with one more analogy that Srila Prabhupada uses in chapter 13. Where Srila Prabhupada says, we should not confuse the painter, the easel, and the painting. We should know that these three things are different. So the deeper meaning is, who is the painter? The painter is the Supreme Lord. Who is the easel? Easel means the object on which you draw and paint. The easel is the Purusha. Purusha means Jivatma here, because the Purusha is the enjoyer with a smaller p. And what is this painting? This painting is actually Prakriti. So how do you understand this in a far more deeper way? So I will just explain that to you, and then we will conclude the session for today. So here we said the painter is Ishvara, the easel is Purusha, and the painting is Prakriti. The deeper meaning is that the Purusha or the Jivatma is being controlled or directed by Ishvara to manipulate Prakriti. The painter works on the easel to make the painting. So the Purusha is controlling the Jivatma to manipulate Prakriti. So don't confuse the three. Each of the three has a specific role. So anyway, I invite you to read chapter 13 and understand the deeper significance of some of the beautiful analogies that Srila Prabhupada uses. We will conclude our session here today.